I can start with the DAC as well as the. Not much I can say about the ARC, and we should also talk about trust.
Yeah, I was going to say whatever we can say about the ARC, which is probably not much other than that we're participating, but whatever we can
That's
say, we should.
exactly. Yeah, we can point out the quotes that we've seen, and also well, we can start there. Let's start with the ARC. So, for those of you who don't know, FPV Freedom Coalition was selected by the FAA to participate in. Let's see if I can do this without the abbreviations. We were selected to participate in the Aviation Rulemaking Committee for Beyond Visual Line of Sight for UAS. And as quoted by Administrator Dixon right after remote ID, this is the next most important rule to get out the door. And so the timing, there is a cone of silence on the work that we're doing, and everyone is participating is asked not to say anything to anyone who is not a member or an alternate member. And I'm the member. Dan is the alternate member. So we will be participating in meetings, writing, and making essentially recommendations to the FAA about beyond visual line of sight.
I really wish that we could
And
make everything public and like interact with our community and get feedback and actually represent, the whole community, but that's not how the FAA works.
not how it works. I agree, and to me, and in management, transparent management is the most effective and the most powerful. And I would assert that transparent governance is the most effective and the most powerful. But that's not what we're doing. What we can do is we can ask questions, and so as we get assigned to tasks, we can ask people, we can gather data, and so we can gather additional community input that way. We can also pull in subject matter experts through the effort. The timing on this, and I'm pretty sure that was publicly announced as well,
I think it
is that the
was.
objective is to have the report from the ARC, the Aviation Rulemaking Committee, complete by November of this year. And so that's quick. And there are 90 organizations that were included. So that's available online. The list of who all is included, and from a recreational perspective, I think it's just us. So no other no retailers, no associations that purely represent recreational. Happily, Kenji Sukahara, our colleague in Drone Service Provider Alliance, is also on, and so we have and in fact we have from the 90. We know probably half of the people participating and the companies participating, and that's through the 7 DACs or drone advisory committees that we've participated in. Josh, greetings.
Hello.
We're just starting. Figured we'd start on the DAC
Yeah.
or the ARC and DAC and Trust and one of the interesting things in the ARC is they're trying not to use acronyms and abbreviations, and so that in aviation that's pretty funny. So it's it's a positive thing, but it is amusing to watch. So a number of companies have made significant announcements that they are participating in the ARC and made a big deal out of it with announcements, and I think that's entirely appropriate. We're proud to have been asked, and I think our participation in the deck shows that we're serious, we're positive, we can be productive, and that's what we'll be for the ARC. So it is important to us, and we'll be pushing the role of recreational, educational, research as areas that are not dead center aligned with the commercial.
And I think you mentioned this
Um,
already, but yeah, it's an invite only uh, meeting. So we were surprised, well, not really surprised, but very happy to be one of those 90 groups that was directly invited by the FAA. Clearly shows that
yeah,
we've been working
well,
with them. They're thinking of us. They know who we are. They invited us to this arc. We're definitely vastly outnumbered on the arc by commercial interest, but we'll fight as hard as we can for our interest
Aren't
anyway.
we always outnumbered?
always have
Well,
numbers,
except for
but
in
we,
actual pilots.
Right, right.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, I've made that point already a couple times. But you're right, well said, Dan. I'm very proud that we as an organization were invited. It is a big deal, and we will be able to continue to help shape the regulations in UAS because of the work we've done and because of this session.
So, question
Anything
about the
else?
ARC.
Yes, sir.
Um, since the notice or the listing showing the members said that there's a chance that they may rearrange some of that, has there been any indication that they might be adding or taking some members off?
Um, they added one association that I've seen. I did add up. I think there's going to be some attrition, but I have because the workload is going to be significant. Uh, so I think we'll see that happen naturally over the next couple of weeks, but the attrit has not been obvious in early days.
I assume you can mention like just how many hours of work it's already been in meetings in the past week, right? That shouldn't be private
Yeah, let's
information, but
see.
it's a lot.
No, it's already been let's see, it's 20 hours
20
already.
hours.
Yeah.
In 1 week, yeah, just
Yeah.
meetings and meetings and meetings, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm glad we
So
have
good.
a retired person on our team who can attend 20 hours of meetings in a week. Because somebody working full time wouldn't be able to do that.
I was thinking about that. I was uh, when I worked for a living. There's absolutely no way I could participate in this. I'd have to decline. And of course, we did have people working in standards organizations, but our corporate mentality was that, no, this is a good thing, right? This is really cool. You get to work with this group. Oh yeah, yeah. This is helping us. Oh yeah. So you know, you can continue your full-time job, right? You don't need any time off or any dispensation for this, right? That's the way we ran it. So yeah, there's just no way that I could have.
Yeah, it definitely shows how the other people, some of them on the arc, are being paid by their day job to be there, and obviously
Mhm.
they're going to have to justify to their company why they're there and try to steer the arc into making sure their company looks good or gets profits from it in some way or another.
Mhm.
Right. Interestingly, the ARC has a lot of government representative people on board, whereas ASTM has a lot of engineering and development management, and so it's amazing that the ASTM is able to pull people. I mean, it's not 20 hours a week; it's maybe 2 or 3 hours a week per working group, but that's a big price. I could not afford 2 to 3 hours a week when I was working. That would have been too much, and if I wasn't driving a program or product or revenue directly, couldn't have done
Mhm.
it. So it's my hats off to those people who are making the time because they're obviously working late to compensate.
So TextJet has a good question. Will the ARC results be made public in November?
Not necessarily. Great question. So precedent is that when the ARC results are presented to the FAA, precedent is that they are made public, but it's not necessarily the case. So because the ARC is a unique body granted by the government, by Congress, for the FAA to do this, it is not a FACA. So the minutes and notes do not have to be distributed publicly. As I said, certainly it's our hope that the results are made public, and that would, of course, position us well to be able to point to an ARC document, just as we did with a remote ID ARC when we were commenting on the NPRM. Very useful to have a pretty heavy weight and capable a document written by a lot of people with these are the requirements that we would place on the FAA. So good news is we'll have that in our minds if we won't have copies of it. Anything else on the ARC?
TechJets is typing at the moment. Let's see what he has. All right, while he's typing, you mind if I jump in here, Dave?
Oh, please.
Oh, actually, here's his question. What regulations will be affected by ARC recommendations?
That's a good question. The answer is it's not, we're not sure yet. Certainly beyond visual line of sight, that's stating the obvious, but
right.
We're not sure, and I can't go into it.
So, just keep in mind that around the ARC, and I'm sure Dave, you covered this, but I'll reiterate, there's usually like essentially a non-disclosure relating to the content that's covered in the meeting. So while we can say that the meetings are happening and they're making progress, we can't really, Dave can't really talk about specifics in terms of that kind of stuff. So the information is relatively embargoed in terms of, all that. So hopefully, they'll release the documents within, once the ARC is wrapped up, and we can see what, how they're going to utilize that information in terms of future regulations. But as far as right now, yeah, we're kind of stuck in not being able to talk about it. So, all right, so I'm going to jump in. I've got a couple interesting things here. So let me get my screen shared here. I believe it's this one. Does it say it's paused? Did I break stuff?
Just minimize the application.
Okay, go away.
This stream has ended.
Okay, share my screen. Applications, screens. There we go. Let's do this. Go live. Hey, there we go. Hey, we got it. All right. Technology has not defeated me yet. All right. So first up is cellular connected drones and Skyward. So for those who are not super familiar with Skyward, Skyward is a division of Verizon. They originally started in 2012, and then they as an independent company, and then they were purchased by Verizon in 2017, or they were acquired, I should say. And currently, they are equipping UAS with cellular, which we kind of knew was going to happen. And in terms of being able to test it for future projects, including beyond visual line of sight. They say universal traffic management. I believe it's unmanned traffic management, but I could be wrong on that.
Right on. Unmanned traffic management.
So those cellular, and this is one of the things we kind of rallied against in terms of remote ID and having the requirement of always connected UAS. So there are areas of the country, while significant portions of the country are covered by cellular network, not all are, and especially in remote areas, or a lot of underdeveloped communities or rural communities where they don't have the same coverage as they would, say, here in Phoenix or in New York or Minneapolis. So these are the so we kind of push it back against that, and throughout the remote ID actual rules dropping and regulations dropping, we won that fight. Not just we, but the entire UAS community who commented, the 53,000 comments. So, but obviously they have left placeholders and areas where this could be dropped in during the next set of regulations or at the next reauthorization. So Skyward has been testing this, and they say, let's see, cellular connected drones play a critical role in enabling tomorrow's safe, reliable, and secure drone operations. This comes from Matt Finelli, the Director of Strategy and Operations at Skyward. We're thrilled to be laying this foundation with the FAA and are confident that our efforts will help inform technical standards from which industry regulations authorizing low risk beyond visual line of sight and one too many operations will flow. So they are basically developing a MOA that will allow them to work with this with the FAA over cellular communication and kind of develop that scenario there. So just a FYI on that. And I am sorry, let me drop some links in the chat.
And I think you picked up exactly on the key point on that, is that there's so many organizations and companies. There's Google. There's this article cites Verizon Skyward. There's AT&T. There's AWS, all interested in getting network as a requirement for remote ID. And with that, as was so clear by the FAA, that remote ID is not detect and avoid. That's where some of these folks are trying to take it, as that network allows an easier push to incorporate a detect and avoid capability in the UAS.
Yeah. So that's kind of the hang up with remote ID right now, in terms of, I'm sure a lot of these organizations and companies, in terms of being able to manage their traffic versus recreational traffic or even small business commercial traffic, in terms of drone deliveries and whatnot, that they may want to kind of roll out. So when we're just broadcasting via radio, in terms of the remote ID broadcast modules, they can't track our stuff as efficiently as if it was connected to the entire system. So we always knew that was going to be the rub. And I think for the immediate future and hopefully many years to come, we've kind of dropped that requirement for a while and gained a reprieve. But just FYI, it's being looked at and researched and developed. So speaking of Google, Dave, this is Wing, a division of Google. They have dropped their free airspace authorization app. So this is so it says Alphabet's delivery subsidiary Wing has launched a free mobile and web app called Open Sky to inform drone pilots, both recreational and commercial, when and where it's safe to fly in the United States. Drone flyers can use the Open Sky app to see information on airspace restrictions, pre-planned flights, and gain airspace approval. It's been in use in Australia since 2019. So this is going to be very similar to Kitty Hawk. I have not downloaded this yet. I was going to earlier this afternoon, and then I had to run some errands, but it seems very much the same thing as some of the other ones out there, like Kitty Hawk and
Kitty Hawk. What's that? That doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, I forgot. What's
a loft?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to take a long time to. Yeah.
That's going to take me a while.
Pretty awesome. The app on your phone updated itself to change its name. I was very impressed.
I didn't even realize that, but
now you can't find it because you search for Kitty Hawk and it's not there.
Yeah.
Well, Kitty Hawk is a drone company on the West Coast.
So
they make hardware.
Yep. So just from the images here, it looks like you've got your no-fly zones, your caution zones. It's got your areas. There you go. Alex is demoing it for us.
I was going to say,
you've
has
got
anybody
your-
tried it yet and compared it to the others?
Have you given it a run through, Alex? What do you think?
I just downloaded it on my
Oh,
phone
wow.
right now.
Jeez.
Tell us if it. Yeah, I
A
have
lot of,
56. I'm in a
lot
56
of-
mile radius of uncontrolled airspace. So
All right, so I'm gonna pop on the video real quick and see what we've got here. So it looks like it's just doing what Alex did, just flying through the different things. So you can plan your flights. You got your details, and probably like everything else. Wow, that was short. Instant
One thing I noticed
notification.
right
Hopefully.
away.
Yeah, what you
One thing I
got?
noticed right away is it says daytime operations. Flights are only allowed during daylight hours, even though recreationally that's incorrect.
as well as
And
107.
commercially now.
So,
Exactly.
107 now.
well, the question
the first
is,
thing I
I
see.
don't think Dan, you use Lance more than I do. So, have they corrected it where you can gain airspace approvals after dark yet through any of the
Well,
apps?
I don't think you can do that with Lance
No.
in controlled airspace. I don't think you can get approval.
Okay,
It's
so
it's always correct. You meant
Yeah,
updated.
So, interesting
Yeah.
question here in the article is, why is Wing investing in an operator app? They said with nearly 2 million registered drones in the U.S. already, regulatory compliance of all drones will allow them to share the sky safely. Moreover, compliance will ultimately expand the uses and benefits of drone, among them emergency response, commercial inspections, and contactless deliveries to more people. And it says, as a champion of an open airspace system, Wing hopes to encourage a stream of innovations that will support diversity, attract users, and grow the U.S. drone industry. The Open Sky app is one of the many tools drone pilots can use to participate in airspace.
I try hard not to be cynical, but I mean, this is like, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. Why is Google creating the glue and the software platform that we're going to operate our drones with? That's where the money is.
Not only
And-
that, I think that, companies like Google and, companies that they support, they can sell that API. Let's say, as an example, and I'm sure Amazon will do their own thing, but I'm going to use them as an example. Google pays, or Amazon pays Google to get a hold of the data from the Open Sky API so that they can plan their flights around all the people who are using that.
Right.
So it's like a miniature, like almost like just a microcosm UTM in terms of that specific app.
Exactly. They want to be a USS, and they want to sell the base software to other companies to not only be USSs. Let's see, USS is a nested abbreviation, so it's a UTM service supplier.
Mm-hmm.
They also want to provide from order entry to delivery. And so you provide the drones and use their software, place an order, the drone knows where to go, it creates a flight path, it gets the authorization, the delivery is made, the inventory is updated back at the factory. And so, that's where, and I'm not making this up. This is from a Google Wing video of this is what we're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
and so they're already at over 10,000 flights, so they're rocking and rolling on this.
And also keep in mind is organizations like Google or Facebook or Twitter, the only reason their apps are free is because they are harvesting your data. So the more data they have, the more that they can either A, sell that data to somebody else, a third party, or B, utilize that data to further their own business. And I'm not saying that Wing is doing anything bad here, but at the same time, it's things are free for a reason, and things aren't really always free. So, like I said, there's definitely it's great to have another app out there that can be utilized. But at the same time, you pick what works best for you. If it's a loft, hey, I didn't say Kitty Hawk. If it's a loft, or if it's Open Sky, or if it's UAS Sidekick, or whichever you're going to use, they all serve the same purpose. It's whatever works best for you. Kitty Hawk or Aloft in the past, I felt was a little not the best interface for me in terms of there's a lot of information that you would have to put in on various different screens before you could get everything to work correctly. But and who knows, maybe OpenSky is a little more user friendly. If there's one thing that Google and or Alphabet altogether is good at, it's UX, its user interfaces.
I think Aloft has improved their user interface a little bit. They've made it easier and easier, at least for what I've used it. And just going back on that topic, if I try to request a flight in my backyard right now, it says, nope, you can't do that. It's not available for night operations.
So
after going through using the app a little bit, it looks like 107, it's asking for the registration number of the aircraft you're going to use. So only make sure you're flying one aircraft for what is if you're flying under 107. But I thought on Kitty Hawk that you didn't have to do that to put the registration number. But it asked for all that and then asked for the type of aircraft you're flying and all that. But the user interface is a little bit better. However, one thing it doesn't look like it shows you is the weather, which was nice on the Kitty on Aloft.
Yeah, that is nice.
The weather and some of those things. I don't know why, but at first I didn't realize that it was going to have me log into my Google account, but I should have expected that.
Makes sense.
Gotta connect all the data together, Alex. Yeah. All of it got to come together.
I didn't think of it when I first opened it up, but it made sense as I went through it.
All of your Google searches are going to have drone-related ads from now on.
They already do.
That's hilarious.
It's not new.
Now they'll even know which Part 107 drone you're flying and what the parts are.
Who says I'm going to use their app?
All right, so this comes from the ARRL, which is the Amateur
Radio Relay League.
Yes, so not great news if you're Hobby King. So a while back in 2017, there was a complaint from the ARRL regarding some of the equipment that they were marketing and selling as being blatantly illegal, and I remember this. So essentially, this had to do with their 1.3 gigahertz modules, and that they were the transmitters. These were VTXs. The transmitters were dip switch selectable for frequencies that were internationally assigned for use by aeronautical navigation, GPS, GLONASS, ATC, as well as both the interrogation and reply frequencies for air traffic control, air route surveillance, transponder radar systems. Transmissions from these drone TV transmitters would have caused harmful interference to these essential navigation ATC radar systems. So this ended up in court back then, and Hobby King was fined, I believe it says in here, almost $3 million, $2.8 million. Right. So this went back into obviously Hobby King appealed the decision, and that appeal was declined.
Could you drop the link over in?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is real, and so this is about VTXs, and so it's if you purchased a VTX in Europe and then brought it over to the United States and started using it, or if in 2016, if you you purchased a VTX, you could turn it on. This article does say via dip switch, but of course we know you could do it via software, and you would be transmitting on navigation and emergency frequencies, and that's so. Granted, where we transmit only up to 1 watt, but that's plenty of power when you think that ham radio can operate on milliwatt ranges and get hundreds and thousands of miles away. So you'd definitely be disturbing. And the FCC, the parties accountable are the manufacturer, the retailer, and the operator. So this is one to continue, and all of the retailers have gotten extremely savvy about this. they will not sell a VTX to us in the United States if it transmits on these frequencies.
Yeah, and I mean, Get FPV went through this a while back as well, and it was a pretty hard hit for them as well, I believe. But
that's correct.
Yeah, so essentially their appeal got declined, and so they have an obligation to pay the fine. So hopefully, Hobby King is. I mean, they're pretty big, but at the same time, I hope they can absorb that and they'll still be around because I know a lot of people depend on them, and so
yeah, it's a big fine.
Yeah, so all right. So as we all know, and we've been talking about this for a long time, the trust test is up, and the recreational UAS. Help me out here.
Safety
test.
Safety
Thank you.
test. So if
Yes.
if you say trust test, it's like duh.
It's redundant.
Make sure you say the trust test.
Or if you say the
Yeah,
trust
the
test, then
trust
it's the trust test
Yeah.
test.
So trust is live. So obviously we were originally we were part of the trust kind of development, and our concern as an organization was that the test would be too costly, too hard for pilots to pass the exam, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Afraid you'd have to sign up with some other company to get to it. Yeah.
Right. So our original purpose was to obviously ensure that it was low cost or free, that it was easy to pass the test in terms of providing knowledge and beforehand, so that it could be a one and done 15-minute kind of deal, and going through that. Now, once we did go through the process, it was a little bit of a bear, and Dan took the brunt of that, a lot of the brunt of that, and we decided once we understood that it was going to be free, it was going to be readily available, it was going to be easy, it wasn't going to create a burden or a barrier to the hobby, we kind of just let off of it and allowed several other companies to kind of go with that. So the test is very easy. In fact, it's impossible to not pass it.
The only way to not pass is to give up.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lifetime. As of right now, it is a lifetime test, so you don't have to retake it every 3 years like you do for Part 107. And the information, a lot of it may be review, and it's basically just to inform you of what the regulations are, how, the safe way to fly and do all that stuff. It's not meant to be burdensome. It's not meant to do anything. In fact, I saw a couple comments, and it might be this article where they talked about, instead of it being named a test, just call it a training.
Yeah, it's not really a test.
So
Congress mandated a test.
Yeah, so we're calling it a test, and
exactly.
But it truly is training, and so we have there are several different partners out there who are running it. We have posted a link on our site to the Pilot Institute. They're one of our friends, and we did post a link to head over to there. Now, little plug for the Pilot Institute. They do offer paid 107 training and different types of training for different applications.
And ground school.
Yep, and ground school. So obviously they wanted to be in this to both support the hobby as well as draw people into maybe some of their other programs, and more power to them. They're a great organization. So
and there's a good endorsement from TextJet, and I mean, it's not an endorsement,
took the test, took 15 minutes. Yeah,
15 minutes. Thank you. In all seriousness, and I did the same thing. Took it. It did not take a long time.
Yep. So
yes, I did pass.
Even if some of the questions are misleading or outright wrong.
Mm-hmm. Got a higher score than Brendan.
So, like I said, it's not meant to be burdensome. You do have to keep your the certificate that they give you at the end on you when you're out flying. So, I would just get it laminated, throw it in your flight bag, keep it on you in case you're ever questioned. You took the trust, and you're set to go.
So to answer TextJet's question, there's a question on the test that is misleading in some ways, where it says having a visual observer while flying FPV allows you to go beyond your visual line of sight or something along those lines. And the whole point of a visual observer is so that an FPV pilot can fly beyond the FPV pilot's visual line of sight. But the FAA is saying, well, if you didn't have your glasses on, you can't go any farther than if you didn't have the FPV goggles on. So they're right, but there's such a misleading wording of the question.
Mm-hmm.
If you read it word for word, it basically says your visual observer doesn't let you fly beyond visual line of sight, so you can't fly FPV in the way the test is written.
So, and I think that's what they were trying to get at, TextJet, is that you do need to stay within visual line of sight of the observer. You can't go beyond their visual. I think it was just worded.
And it's really beyond your visual line of sight if you didn't have goggles on, because your observer should be standing right next to you with the same visual line of sight. But they don't get into any of those details. They just make it sound like your visual observer doesn't help you at all.
So, it's just little things like that there may be some wording issues. And I do know that some people are saying the trust is about 30 minutes. Most people I talk to seems to be like 15, 20. Not a big deal, especially if you're coming in with knowledge. But if you're a first timer, obviously you go buy your drone from Best Buy or from Target, and you go out, and technically you need to take the trust. And I'm curious what kind of marketing is happening in relation to that, because there's drones sitting on the shelf right now since the trust came out that probably have no documentation. Hey, go take this. So hopefully we don't see a bunch of petty little things, enforcement things against people who haven't taken the test just yet. Most of the time the FAA is all about it, teaching and training, but at the same time, I hope nobody gets caught off guard with it. So just make sure you go take it. If you're seeing this, go take your trust, take 15 minutes before you eat your dinner, and go knock it out. So again, it's just providing information and regulation. So I do want to go back to something I talked about, I think last week on the DJI Mini. This comes from Drone DJ. So this is the DJI Mini SE. This was basically a version of the Mavic Mini, who essentially they were selling it for like $300. Now it's not going to be sold in North America, so you can't get it. They developed it. It's basically the insides from a DJI Mini with the body of a Mini 2. So it's not meant to be any kind of high performance. It's a little bit underpowered from what I'm reading. But it's meant for areas of the world who may not have the direct availability to cost-effective, decent drones. So it's meant to kind of get out there and inspire maybe some underserved communities around the world. So it is not going to launch in the United States or Europe except for Russia. So, yeah. It says, and this is according to DJI, the DJI Mini SE is a specialized product tailored for entry-level drone pilots in markets where consumer drone use is emerging. It uses the internal components of the Mavic Mini, the shell of the Mini 2, which generates slightly higher wind resistance, but provides much of the performance of the original Mavic Mini at an attractive price. There are currently no plans to sell this product in the US or Europe, apart from Russia. The DJI Mini 2 remains our flagship entry-level drone with its superior 4K 30 FPS resolution and up to 10-kilometer image transmission. Obviously, subject to local rules and regulations. So I just wanted to correct that. I got super excited that I could get a cheap DJI Mini when I read that. So obviously,
if you travel to the right country.
Well, I might just have to, go chance it in Russia right now. So, this is pretty cool. This is coming from the drive. And I am going to play a video. So this is the Department of Energy, Nevada National Security Site. And they basically have segregated a section out of this area for testing both UAS, counter UAS, and different types of projects like this.
I see a picture of a DJI drone there. Did they do this when they were allowed to fly DJI drones?
Well, they're allowed again, right? So, now this it actually gives the specific latitude and longitude, but this is closed. It's operated out of the closed village of Mercury, Nevada. This is the same general area where hundreds of nuclear weapons were tested during the Cold War. The area all lies within a block of restricted airspace called R4808N, which sits inside R4808A, also known as the box, which is the same area that Area 51 sits in. So, hey, super cool.
Thought there were no drones there.
Well, it's a UFO. So obviously highly restricted airspace. But the cool thing about this place, and I'm going to play a video. This is called Port Gaston, is the place where they're doing this. They essentially will allow companies to schedule time to go out there and test whatever they want to test, and they don't have to interface with the FAA. Because this is the U.S. government. It's a restricted. I mean, the airspace is heavily restricted, so they're allowed to use it for whatever they want, whenever they want. So they cite in the video, which I'll cover here in a second, that to attempt to get approval for any type of experiment with the FAA can take upwards of 4 months to a year to 3 years just for one flight. And whereas they can schedule time at the NNSS within days. So not only are they able to do simple UAS tests and counter UAS tests, they're allowed to do directed energy tests, which would be like could be like a laser or a directed radio blast to knock drones out of the air for counter UAS. They also have a 16-mile one-way corridor between two areas that they can do beyond visual line of sight testing.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask. Can I do BVLOS testing with my quads?
You can.
Sign up for a day.
So
yeah, Josh, you gonna just sign up and go fly your wing really far over there? Go drive over there?
It might be fun. It might be fun. Yeah. So they can do anything. They allow extensive and agile outdoor test bed that allows for rapid validation of prototype sensors, information aggregation and analysis, and identification of requirements and flexible concepts. There's a lot of buzzwords in that sentence. Port Gaston personnel say the footage that they are able to accommodate almost any type of testing involving drones or anti-drone technologies. The site offers a rare, nearly restriction-free environment for research and development to take place in a real-world setting. We literally have the ultimate playground for national security testing.
You know what? Rotor Riot should go over there and do an episode with all the flights that they're not allowed to do anywhere else.
So I'm going to play this. It's about almost a 4-minute video.
Can you turn it up in any way? It's really quiet on our end.
Is that better?
A little bit.
I think we protect the nation by providing this venue for people to game against UASs.
With the UAS, the reason that that's getting so much attention out here is because it's so important and it is changing the economy, and it's going to for a long time.
Compared to anywhere else in the United States, we provide a succinct venue. We control the airspace, we control the environment. We're inside a restricted and controlled place to play.
We're far enough away for other neighbors and the freeway and communities so we can have a secure test. We own the airspace. We own it surface to infinity. However, we schedule 14,000 and below on a daily basis, which gives quite a lot of airspace for any of the customers to come in.
You can only go up to 14,000 feet.
Assets to be flying.
The CEO of a company that's been doing some work out here and I were talking, and he told me it takes about 4 months to get a permit to do a single experiment. Where out here, it takes a few days of coordination to do as many experiments as we want to.
You do not have to interface with the FAA, which saves you 4 months. We're very cost effective. When it comes down to it, you get on our calendar, you can come out and do what you need to do and get your data.
We can also do directed energy. The FCC regulates spectrum throughout the country, but NNSS has an experimental station license issued by the FCC, and that allows us to then now we have explosives capabilities, we have flying capabilities, and we have the ability to do directed energy.
We do have the capability of beyond visual line of sight from actually Port Gaston all the way to Area 25, the MX racetrack, which is 16 miles one way. We have a unique ADS-B system for tracking with a small transponder put on some of the drones to do beyond visual line of sight.
So we provide ready, available assets and pilots to provide them something to train against.
Somebody can come out and say, I want to do almost any type of testing in this space, and we can accommodate it.
Here at Port Gaston, right across the street, is ARL Sword weather station. And we can also request a on-site weather station that can be recorded to 1 second for any of the customer's needs.
To be able to have a private airspace, non-FAA, corridor 16 miles long, and being able to fly high hazard within that's a dream, it really is. So we should attract some interesting customers. I know we will, we already have.
And the reason they're coming here is because it's a unique location to be able to test and see these things. So they can see them operating in an austere environment like they'd really have to. It's not in a laboratory, it's out in the field, and it can be complicated testing.
We have such a vast amount to offer, we can make our menu to fit the customer's needs.
We literally have the ultimate playground for national security testing. If you can imagine it, we can do it.
You come in, you get to do what you need to do to test out and validate your equipment.
At Port Gaston, we work on national security.
So pretty interesting. It's definitely, for those customers that they're looking for who need to test something quickly, get a proof of concept, that kind of stuff to move on to the next engineering point, not always a bad thing. So, with that, I think that's all I have. Any questions?
Do we have any points on the DAC? Did we talk about?
No,
The
we haven't
DAC,
covered the DAC at all yet.
We haven't
Okay.
talked about that
Yeah.
We should tell people what the DAC is first.
Thank you. It is a FACA. It is the FAA's requirements body, and it's also an official organization.
And
that
DAC
allows.
stands for Drone Advisory Committee, right?
Thank you. There are about 35 members. We are not a member of the DAC, although we have applied, and you apply as an individual. So I've applied. Alex has applied.
I've applied.
And we'll keep working at it. So the at the DAC that just happened with June 23, is that right? Yep. And if you search on FAA DAC DAC, there's a PDF that's 209 pages. And on page 162, you can see that one of the groups that Alex and I both participated in, there were 5 recommendations. We're happy with these. Voluntary ADS-B in, radio use by UAS operators, voluntary onboard access for low altitude aviators, voluntary notify and fly, ground-based remote ID in network. So this is from left to right. If you bring that slide up, it was intended to be from easy to hard, and so in the sequence that I read those off, certainly on voluntary ADSB in only, and the overall push of this tasking was, how could you utilize remote ID information to improve situational awareness for crewed and uncrewed, or that is unmanned aircraft at low altitudes. And so one of the cool ones is radio use by UAS operators. So you may know that we cannot, without a very special ground station license, pick up a handheld radio and transmit on aviation frequencies. You can listen, but you cannot talk. And so in uncontrolled airspace only, and not in talking to air traffic control, but talking to pilots, this would be very advantageous. So it's simple. It does not require going back to the FCC. It just requires a change by the FAA. So that one, we hope that they'll take on board and make it happen. Voluntary onboard access for low altitude aviators. That idea is to utilize the data from remote ID integrated into a flight deck in manned aircraft or crewed aircraft, and thereby have an understanding of where drones are as you're flying. Lots of details in the write-up. Voluntary notify and fly is one of the two things that was missing in the final rule of remote ID in our view. And so we wanted a notify and fly, but we also wanted an exemption from remote ID. And so what we've asked for here is the notify and fly. And this is an intent, and it's in applications like Before You Fly or Aloft. Next week, I'm going to fly in this volume of airspace during this time. Why do we care? Well, it's helpful if you're a company and someone is going to fly near say, your AT&T, you're going to inspect cell towers. It's also, if we could get that added to an exemption for remote ID. So if I say, look, I'm going to fly here at this bando, I'm going here, this is who I am, this is the volume space I'm going to fly, and this is when I'm going to fly, would like that to be, instead of carrying the equipment of a remote ID broadcast module. Finally, ground-based remote ID and detection network. That's mostly for cities, but this is far out. It's a little difficult, but this is along the lines of satisfying security requirements and how to do it. It's one of the methods that we think would be less onerous. Okay, enough detail on that one. The gender-neutral language, which we all tasking, which we also participated in, went over very well. It's been very well received. Lots of press about this. We anticipate that the work that we did will be picked up and carried in other agencies in the government.
Yeah,
and
it seems like it's not just going to be for drones. It's going to be all of FAA, and they're going to push it even farther. Yeah.
Across different agencies.
Yeah,
yes.
they blog posted about it as soon as the meeting was over.
I have, yeah, and yeah, the deputy administrator was on talking about it really very well.
Also,
I mean, go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to mention it also made some national news too.
And this wasn't like this is the FAA's idea that we should be spending time on this. This was coming from, I think, a director from, was it the White House or something, saying that all pieces of the government should be working on gender neutral language or figuring out where they can improve that everywhere.
Right.
Diversity, inclusivity kind of stuff.
Right. Yes, it is absolutely that. And I bought in when I read some research came out of UT Austin that said, this is affecting kids. And so, and as you read some of these research papers, this is way beyond political correctness. This affects little girls. And one of the women who I worked with on an FAA symposium said, when I go to grade schools and I talk about drones and I bring tiny whoops with me, it's 50-50, the kids, girls and boys. 50% girls, 50% boys show up. I also do high school outreach, and I bring some drones, and we talk drones. It's 100% guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth a read, and I'm committed. And we did have good stake in this work. I ran 2 subgroups that provided input to the people who wrote it, and the folks who wrote it, super professional, and it's a good piece of work. In addition, we have 2 new taskings. So tasking 11 and 12. One is the acceptable level of risk white paper, and you look at that one and go, what? What are they talking about? Well, what they're talking about is really interesting and very useful. And so I think, Alex, you volunteered to sign up for the K through 12 and possibly the white paper one, if time permitting, and job and school.
I'll probably be only doing the K to 12 one. The risk one, I don't think I'll have enough time, and I don't think that they passed along my information for that one yet.
Okay. So what's the appropriate level of risk? This is really important to us. The FAA is now coming back and saying, maybe for small UAS, there should be a different set of categories or a different continuum of risk.
You think maybe?
This is
Mm-hmm.
this is good.
So just a little background on this. Yeah. So a little bit of background on this. So before so far as we can tell, all risk assessment in terms of like the falling drone was based on like a 1960s study of debris that could fall off a rocket that was going through space or an airplane. So
it was a solid piece of metal.
Yeah, so think about a solid piece of metal hitting you in the head. Ow, that's going to hurt. It could possibly kill you. Now, drones are going to hurt, but at the same time, the impact of that is going to be applied differently depending on the type of drone. So, if you think about like a tiny whoop, obviously does not have enough kinetic force in terms of weight or mass and energy to do any kind of serious harm.
Unless it's traveling at thousands of miles per hour, which it's not going to do.
Well, I mean, speed of light, right? But at the same time, a 5-inch drone might have a little bit more impact, and it's going to have a little bit more impact, and it's going to have more, abrasive surfaces in terms of the larger blades, carbon fiber. But at the same time, carbon fiber is not a piece of metal, and drones are essential. let's take racing drones for example, or freestyle drones. They're meant to apply force across the entire frame. So if you get hit by one, that force is going to be absorbed by the carbon fiber and reverberate through the entire frame, not apply it all at the same spot like a piece of metal that is completely rigid and immovable. So,
or it's the terminal velocity, if it falls out of the sky, is way lower than a cannonball of the same weight.
Yes.
There's a lot more air resistance
also,
in it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was going to go. But, so absolutely the risk assessments need to be relooked at. They need to be updated. So this is great. This is going to be a really good, hopefully, subgroup for us. This is going to be important.
I really hope they'll be able to make some of that information public, but I'm sure at first it's going to be totally embargoed.
Well, I hope. I mean, so this is what's so clever about this is a white paper written by the FAA. So the FAA is, the FAA is not supposed to create its own requirements. So the FAA is saying, we think that the risk is different on the continuum for UAS than it is for manned aircraft. Well, so we're going to write a white paper about it, and then we'd like our official FACA to comment on it. So then they have industry input. So good for them for doing this. And so we're on that one. And the other one is about K through 12. And it reads, leverage the expanding interest in UAS operations into K through 12 curriculums, should be curricula. Develop the next generation of innovative thinkers, leaders, and operators, encourages investments and continued education in STEM-related fields. So the tasking is to the DAC to develop recommendations on how to integrate UAS operations into K through 12 curricula. Super. We're signed up. Alex, if you can, will join that one, and I'm on that one for sure. So that will be my 8th and 9th DAC tasking, drone advisory committee tasking effort. Alex,
and we'll just reiterate really quickly, we're not officially members of the DAC, but we're doing a lot of work as tasking members.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Absolutely right.
So what I was going to add was with the K-12 integration one, I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, knowing that there's already several companies already doing this. Because I know Global Air Drone Academy, where I do some stuff at, does that. Then there's Drone Cadets, they do that, and then there's several other companies that already do this. So curious to see what that ends up looking like.
I think what we have is pockets, because like Drone Academy is not known up here in the Northeast. AOPA, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, has a fantastic program called You Can Fly. They're in 200 high schools. They have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade classes.
And they're adding FPV to those classes.
Yep.
So that's one thing.
That's a big deal. So but getting this together, leveraging it, endorsing it from the FAA, adding content from the FAA, any of this is good to push STEM and aviation STEM into K through 12.
Hopefully, they can possibly take some of the resources from the CTI as well.
CTI.
Collegiate Training Initiative.
Okay.
The UAS Collegiate Training Initiative.
Yep.
So, go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say that's what one of the other things Elena was working on.
Gotcha. So a couple of, these are both great tasking groups. I think, one of the key things that we've used in terms of that our views are in is that, drones are a perfect STEM outlet. And this is something we've reiterated multiple times to the FAA, both, through our comments on NPRMs, through our contact with Congress people, and obviously in private meetings with the FAA. So it's great to see that coming out. Now, what I imagine will happen is, like Dave said, there's a lot of little pockets everywhere, right? So there might be 200 schools over here, 50 over here, but not any really widespread adoption in terms of, the national education system. So, it would be interesting to see if the FAA, being one regulatory body, communicates effectively with the Department of Education, being another regulatory body, to ensure that STEM, drones and STEM start to work together within public education. I think that would be the best outcome of all of it.
That would be great.
So, and this, I think the AOPA would jump up and down in glee with that.
Mm-hmm.
They described how to integrate classes into a single high school, that every high school area was unique. They had to work with the Board of Education. They had to work with the teachers union. They had to make sure that across the country, that they're Common Core compliant, that they had curricula for the trainers, that they had curricula for the kids, materials, etc. So it's non-trivial, and they've done a super job. But if they were able to do it once and then just deliver it, that's great.
And another way,
it would be interesting to see if they group up with the different organizations who have been successful doing it as kind of stakeholders within STEM, drones and STEM, to kind of develop that curriculum.
And another way to look at this is that the FAA doesn't really even know what's going on out there. So look at this as a way of the current K through 12 setups teaching the FAA what does exist already. As we've seen, the FAA, at least some of the people at the FAA, have no idea what things are already happening out there with drones.
Yeah.
They don't have an idea, but they're also open-minded and interested in listening, and they can help turn it around and affect change.
Hopefully this tasking group will help go both ways for that.
Yeah.
One of the other things with the drones in school is I know, and JRTC has added some some drone curriculum to the courses for at least Navy Junior ROTC.
Makes perfect
Ah,
sense.
Yep.
excellent.
I,
Excellent.
I'd assume Air Force ROTC has done the same,
Mhm.
and not sure about Army or Marines, but more than likely they also have added drones into their curriculum too.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
one of the things that they've done.
yeah, military
cool.
drones right now are not just they're really not just the big predators and global hawks and whatnot that they've got right now. They are working with, small little, I mean, size of tiny whoops that they're using to do, remote recon and stuff like that. So I think the more that they can integrate that at an early age would be even better for that kind of use. So but yeah, I think both these tasking groups are excellent. I felt like the last round was kind of missing the big punch, but I think that at the same time, I would agree that the gender neutral language and being able to draw, different, a diverse group of people into the hobby and into uh, professions like aviation and whatnot, it
Yeah.
would be ideal.
The
'Cause
last thing we
I
want to
think
do is put
our-
any extra barriers there to prevent people
Oh,
from joining.
absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah,
And our estimates are what, like 97% of FPV is guys. And interestingly, it's the same number for front of aircraft and airliners. It's about
Mhm.
3% are women. So this is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever we can do to help that and fix it, we should do.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with that. So, I think we are well past our time. I am sorry for holding everybody up. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas?
What did we forget to talk about this week?
Oh my goodness, I felt like we covered a lot.
Apparently, we
XJet
covered
is typing.
everything.
The UFO report, didn't that come out in like last week?
Hey, I'm stoked.
I haven't read it yet.
Port Gaston, here we come.
Oh geez, yeah. All right,
I
so
like that I like the way that they use the word port in the middle of a desert.
right.
It's so
It's a-
federal.
Airport. Report was 9 pages, not much there. All right, well, I'll still
bummer.
give it a look see just to say I read it. But all right, so with that, guys, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Appreciate you all being here.
Happy 4th, right?
Yeah, and have a great 4th of July. Be safe out there. If you are flying, do so safely. That's all I have to say. And check the TFRs. Okay.
That's
There's
good.
one in Miami.
Get the words
Miami
out
has one.
of my mouth. Yeah.
So
Too hot to fly. Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But as Josh is saying, check for TFRs, and so sports events, air shows.
yeah.
Just take a look. If you have we want everyone to be safe. Go ahead, Alex.
I love seeing the fireworks FPV shots. I absolutely love it, but do so legally and safely, please.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Turtle. And TextJet is never too hot to fly as long as you can fly from your car with the AC on. If it's too hot for your car's AC, then it might be too hot.
There you go. Well, TextJet and I, we live down in the areas where it's a little warm.
Yeah.
Unlike you.
Yeah, I can't fly outside of my car because the bugs will carry me away, but you guys can't fly out of your car because you'll melt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, indeed.
Although Seattle is feeling my pain. Seattle is feeling my pain right now. So, I'm sharing that up north with y'all. So
It's been like 90 all week, and it's been burning hot here.
oh wow.
How do you
Try
guys
117, boy.
I'll stick to at least Maryland and maybe further north, and hopefully further north later on.
Yeah. I'll bring you here. So
No, thank you.
I missed that.
So when I went to, this is after hours, guys, you don't feel like you need to stick around, but when I was up in Canada at school, I lived up in Vancouver in British Columbia, and I lived like 3 blocks off the beach. So super, super humid, very moist air. I came home for a break back here to Phoenix, literally did not make it off the ramp to the plane before my lips cracked and started bleeding. It was just like, and then just blood. I was just like, what the heck happened?
Zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it was crazy. It took it. Oh, it was so bad. I could not wait to. It was weird because I loved being home, but I could not wait to get back up there so my lips would heal.
Up to the Great White North.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. Have a great time, guys. Remember, be safe, fly safe, and get your trust out of the way.
That's it.
All right.
Take the trust.
All right. Take it easy, guys. Have a good night.
See ya.
Good night. Thank you. Take care.